Hey guys, I thought I'd do a preseason scouting video for you since deer season here in Illinois is going to be hitting us before too long. October 1st is the opener. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do a multi-part series, and the first part's going to be my scouting online. My second part's going to be boots on the ground. I'm not going to hide anything on this as to where this location is. That way, if you guys want to go hunt there, if you have the ability to go hunt there, you're more than welcome to. The only thing I ask is if you shoot a good deer or even shoot a deer there, get a hold of me on YouTube or Instagram and post a picture. I'd love to see, what you did and what you shot. So we're looking at Clinton Lake here in Illinois. This is a place I'm pretty familiar with. I've fished there quite a bit. I've hunted over there several times in the past. So the first thing I'm going to do when I look at an area is I'm going to pull up the Illinois DNR website and look for a boundary map. And then I'm going to switch over to Street View on Hunt Stand. And I'm going to use a combination of the boundary map and Hunt Stand to figure out where I can and can't hunt. I outline that with orange everywhere. That way there's never a question. Next thing I do is go through and mark every parking lot that I can find. That's another thing that's going to be awesome on those boundary maps is they usually have the parking marked as well. But I'll go through and mark every parking lot I can find. And the biggest reason I do that is I'm looking for a hunting area that's hard to access. Areas with several parking lots in the same area make it a lot easier for people to walk into, and they're areas that I want to avoid. So I've already pre-picked out an area, and it's the North Fork section of Clinton. I'll go ahead and zoom in here. This is the North Fork section, and you'll notice that there's a parking lot here, and then there's two way down here, but there's nothing in between. This is the North Fork boat ramp. This is the archery or the hunting parking area, and this is a canoe launch. So automatically, because there's no way to get in here, all of this is private land on either side. This is a good area to me. Next thing I do is I go into those areas and I basically block out anything that I think is going to be too easy to get to. Too close to the parking lot, so it's going to be overpressured. So you'll see that's what this is right here, is I blocked these out, and it's just, I've got them labeled too pressured. Next, you'll see this up here, and you'll think, well, that's not close to a parking lot. You're right, it's not. But I happen to know that you can use a boat and get to any of this, a regular boat, and get to any of this because the water's deep enough to do it. And then it's just a short walk from anywhere after you pull up the boat. Matter of fact, I've done that before. Hunted up in here with my boat and hunted up in this little area here. So it's a short walk after you get up in there with your boat. It's all no good to me. Maybe not a lot of guys will do that, but more than you think will. Now you'll see as the water gets up here, it turns into a creek. And the reason this is not marked out is because it's so shallow, it's hard to get a standard boat up in there. You really need a jet boat, a mud motor, a kayak, or a canoe. And there's such a small or thin piece of public land on either side of the water here. Really anything with a lot of motor noise is a bad idea. You're going to scare away all the deer. So that leaves this area. And then I go up here and I do the same thing where the canoe launch is. I mark my areas. And when I mark areas, what I try to do is measure using this tool here from the parking lot to the furthest point I'm comfortable walking. Comfortable walking. Not willing to walk, comfortable walking. A half mile is good. And most guys you're going to find aren't going to even reach necessarily that half mile. You'll find some that do, but most of the time a half mile is absolute max for a lot of guys. So then I just kind of measure from every parking lot and mark the area. Areas like this where you have to walk up a road and around the bridge to get on the other side of the creek, because I know for a fact this is deep enough you can't cross it. They get a little bit shorter on the other side just because a lot of guys, that adds to their walk. So anyways, after that's done, oh guys, I'm sorry about all this zooming. This laptop does not like me today. So after that's done, you're left with an area like you see here. The next thing I do is I look through this area and I mark my specific areas of interest in purple. That's the fence color on the add line tool. Mark my areas of interest. And those are going to be the areas that I'm going to put boots on ground and scout. Now I picked these areas a couple different ways. This big section right here, I picked out using the train feature. And the reason I picked it out is you see these peaks right in here, in this ridge line, all possible bedding area for deer. And if I've learned anything about public land is if you want to kill a big buck, your best way to do it is hunt close to their bedding area. Yes, I understand that you can sometimes catch them going to food, but you have to realize every other Joe knows that you can catch them going to food also. So if you think outside the box and you're able to sneak in to 200 yards from where they bed, your chances of killing that buck exponentially increase. Not necessarily the same with does. I've noticed does move a lot more during daylight hours than bucks do. I've seen circumstances where big bucks will stand up and mosey around, especially if there's a really good oak crop. They'll bed in those oaks and they'll stand up and mosey around 60 to 80 yards, 100 yards max away from their bed and lay back down, because they can munch on those oaks and never have to go anywhere, especially when you put water in the equation. You put water, food, and bedding all in the same area, those deer might live in a 300-yard range their entire life with the exception of rut. Not necessarily likely, but it is very possible. And those are actually generally the deer that get the biggest. Anyways, back on track. So I picked this out because this ridge line could be a possible good bedding area. And then specifically down here at this point, a deer bedded at this point on the back side here would have the ability to hide from anything coming over the top and smell it when the wind is blowing from north to south, and see all of this valley, because as you can see topographically, this point is higher than the rest of everything down here, which just gives them an advantage as far as being able to see danger. And it's kind of, I've noticed that with any ridges, this point right here, he could bed here when the wind is blowing, oh lordy, west to east. He could bed on the backside of this, smell anything coming in from this direction, and see any predators coming from in here. So ridge lines are always good bedding areas, especially in thick timber. What I do to mark those areas so that when I'm in there I make sure I check them out is I just kind of trace the ridge line roughly with an orange line and put deer bedding markers on either end. You trace it with this, and you add your icon for deer bedding here. And that tells me, hey, check these areas out and see if you can't find a bed. So the draw for this area was terrain. I'll go back to my satellite here. The draw for this area is all of this, and I'll zoom in real quick, give you a little better view. This is all CRP grass with some willows or random trees thrown in, and marsh. Now when the water is really, really high, this all floods. We're not going to see high water this year, I don't think. We've not had a whole lot of rain. That'll make this, since we won't see that high water, that makes that a great area for them deer to bed. Matter of fact, this is probably shallow enough, especially in here, if they had to ditch to leave here, they could run across and get away. And they will do that. If they are in danger, they have no problem swimming or going across water. So knowing what I know, the deer will bed in this stuff, and that gives me the ability to possibly hunt them on this edge, and this edge if there's big enough trees, or even really just get in there on them and hunt from the ground. And a big tip, something I see 95% of the guys that hunt public land do, if they can't hang a stand there, they don't hunt it, which leaves areas like this to be potentially hot spots for deer. If a deer has water here and has browse in here that they can eat, there's no reason for them to leave and go out into the dangerous areas where people are hanging stands. So if you can find an area like this, and until I get boots on ground I won't know for sure, but if you can find an area similar to this where a guy can't hang a stand, chances are you're going to find deer. And if you're the only guy that's willing to make it a little bit harder on yourself and get on the ground to hunt them, you could have a big advantage over the competition. So anyways, that's why I picked this area out, is just ample bedding, marsh, and I'll zoom in here a little bit. because I wanted to show you guys that if you look real close, when it cooperates, you can see trails going through here that the deer use, and you can see like willows. And so anyways, that's just good bedding area, something I'll definitely want to check out at least. Something else I forgot to cover that kind of makes me a little bit worrisome about these areas is this power line route. This power line route, if properly trimmed and maintained, it makes all of this super easy to get into. Same with this one. It's a lot shorter walk for a guy to come up or bring a boat up and pull up in here and walk this little path right back there. So it's, again, boots on ground is important, because if that's all messy and they don't take care of it, that could be a really good spot. If it's really easy to walk, it might not be. This spot is kind of the one I'm most interested in. It's a little piece. You'll see there's a valley that runs through where the water drains into the lake. I'm not going to show you terrain, but there are good points here, and you can kind of assume that just by this valley, where the deer may possibly bed. It's a hardwood stand, so you got the possibility of oaks. They have an escape route because it's about 3 to 6 foot deep here at this place at any given point, and this is super shallow, like 8 inches, 10 inches deep. So they can escape across there. And another big thing for me is it's a far distance from anybody that would hunt it. There's a house up here. That's kind of why I blocked out this portion. There's a pond back here. There's a trail to that pond. This area may very well get used by the people that have this house. It's a big reason why this might not be the best area. There's a house there and there's a house there. If those guys hunt this, it could be pretty busted out. But if you notice on the back side of this, this is the closest house, and there's a tree line, and there's all of this private ground before the public. Chances are, if this person is a hunter and they own this property, they're not going back to the public ground. Why would they when they have all that private acreage with a field on it where the deer are obviously going to come eat? There's no point for them to use the public ground. So what that means to me is the deer could possibly be bedding here, eating acorns, or going out to this field. So if I can sneak in here and catch the deer before they go to the field, I can get them before they ever make it to private land. So this piece is the one that interests me most, and the one that I'm definitely going to put the most time into scouting out. And actually, just because I've ran this a couple times, I know where the ridgelines are. I'll go ahead and put these deer bedding pins down. Just so I make sure I check them out. Alrighty. Guys, that's really all there is to it. Online scouting is important, especially for areas that you've never been. But I don't put too much stock in it because it only shows you so much. Like I said, I don't know if these are well kept. If they are, that kind of hurts this area and it hurts this area. If they're not, it could be great. I don't know that I'm necessarily right about this guy not messing with public land. I honestly don't know 100% that these borders are correct until I get out there. So online scouting is important to see what you're working with and give you a general idea of where to start, but it's not the end-all be-all. You definitely need to get boots on ground. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. My next segment, I'm going to have boots on ground. Just kind of check in, and I might try to do a segment where I check each section out and tell you what I like and don't like. It just might be a little bit easier. So we'll end this segment here. I appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions, please don't be afraid to comment and ask. I will try to answer them the best that I can. I am by no means an expert hunter, and I'm not claiming to be an expert hunter. However, I love hunting public land. I hunt a ton of public land, and more than that, I've watched a lot and talked to a lot of public land hunters to figure out how they function. So I believe that I can tell you guys tips and tricks that will help you. If you liked this video, please don't forget to like it. If you're interested in watching another video that I've posted, look in the top left corner of your screen. If you want to subscribe, there's going to be a button in the bottom right corner. And don't forget to ding that notification bell. That way when I upload new videos, you'll be told about it. As always, guys, I really do appreciate you watching, and I will catch you next time. Thank you.